Good evening and welcome to a very special interview show of The Pro. Today it's my pleasure to have Kamna Shibal ma'am on our show. Kamna ma'am is the head of mental health at the Department of Mental Health and Behavioral Sciences, Fortis Healthcare, an author and a TED speaker. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out the time and a very warm welcome to The Pro.
Thank you so much, Ritvij, and it's a pleasure to be on the platform today to talk about mental health.
Yeah, so today I have a very special news to share with the viewers of The Pro and to the listeners of the Ritwik Chandelier podcast. So Kamna ma'am has come up with a book named Alone in the Crowd, co-authored with Dr. Sameer Parekh and published by Rupa Publications, which talks about overcoming the loneliness of urban living. Check out the link in the description box below to order your copies. So ma'am, I would like to begin the discussion by asking what made you write a book on this important topic and what was your motivation behind this?
So, Ritvij, in fact, for many years now, even prior to the pandemic, there were so many times when we would have conversations with people, especially young people, who would come and talk to us and share with us experiences of how they would feel that, even though they have so many friends, so many social connections, they would still continue to feel lonely despite being a part of large groups, having sometimes even staying with your own family members, living in these large complexes which have so many buildings with so many houses, and yet they would continue to experience this state of loneliness which would make them feel low, sad, unsure of what the future is like, what are we working towards. And in fact, what ended up happening in the last 20 odd months, ever since the pandemic certainly has come in, these conversations have only grown. More and more people have started talking about how we are very disconnected from each other, uh, especially during the times when people were going through periods of isolation and quarantine. That was when they started realizing that they may have lots of followers on their social media. They would get a lot of likes, or comments on some of their posts and all. But where were those real conversations happening? Those questions became very, very prominent in people's mind, and they started recognizing how the social fabric has been undergoing its own change, where perhaps we don't have the strength of relationships the way it used to be. Nuclearization of families, people moving from the smaller towns and cities to the larger urban metropolitan areas, moving away from their families, not having those kind of large houses the way they used to be there previously. All of these changes have contributed towards that. And that's what prompted us to probably look at this aspect more closely, and try to see that, okay, what is it that can be done to take care of loneliness? Because it can't be just about what's happening on the outside. It could also link to what's happening on the inside. So that's where the entire idea and came about of talking about loneliness.
Yeah. Okay. So you talk about, overcoming loneliness of urban living, but not about the rural living. So do you believe that rural people are less prone to loneliness?
I think somewhere the structures have changed in far more significant ways when we're looking at urban settings. Also, for us, when we are doing a lot of work, it ends up happening within the urban spaces more than the rural spaces. I think if you were to go into the more rural areas of the country, you would recognize that there is still a lot of feeling of community, a lot of connect. People know each other. They rely on each other. There is a lot of collective responsibility, which ends up being a very strong feature, a strong characteristic of rural areas. And people do find ways of coming together with each other to support each other. And that is certainly a difference. And which is why we thought that, there is a need to segregate the two aspects, because urban life, urban lifestyle is significantly, distinctly different from what it is, from what life looks like within the rural spaces. And that's why we said that, let's focus on this aspect here in this one space first.
Okay. So, there are 775 crores people on the planet, and still there are many people who find themselves alone. Though they have friends, family members, but still they feel alone within. So, what do you think is the reason behind this, and what can be done to overcome this feeling of loneliness?
Multiple reasons, and this is what we have also tried to address through the medium of the book. That you first need to develop an understanding of the problem. I think it's the first and foremost most easy thing that comes to each and every individual's mind would be that okay, yes, relationships have changed. There has been nuclearization of families. People have moved away from their larger family systems. People have become more and more immersed in their workspaces. I think growing ambition has been one of the biggest aspects which has become a prominent feature of all of our lives. And what that does is that you are constantly looking for opportunities. So you're also constantly keeping yourself very busy, very occupied. You don't have necessarily the time, the space to be able to try and reflect and even think about what am I really working towards. And there is a lot of comparison which happens. You keep on looking at what is the next person doing. You're also looking at a strong competition, a competitive sense which has creeped into every space that we are occupying. And you're keeping on constantly moving. There is this it's almost like, you're on this train which is just running constantly, and you don't have the time to slow down, because slowing down almost seems like it would mean that you're going to lose the race somehow. And I think that is what has probably really significantly contributed to the problem of loneliness also, because what then happens is that when you're constantly running and rushing, you don't have time for anything else. You're only looking at fulfilling certain targets, certain goals, and even your home life almost becomes like, getting done with one chore and moving to the next one. It's not about necessarily stopping, thinking, reflecting, enjoying more than anything else what is it that is there in front of us. And as a result, I think the growing disconnect has become even more pervasive. And there is this constant sense of feeling of loneliness which is pervading within us, because you don't even think that you can turn around and talk to the people that you're most closely associated with about what may be really going on within your lives. A lot of times, in fact, you would feel that disconnect, not just with people around you, but also with your own self, because it becomes very difficult to pinpoint what am I experiencing in a situation, what are my thoughts, what are my feelings. And that too keeps on contributing to this problem of loneliness. And then simultaneously, you also have the gadgets. We have an abundance of gadgets, an abundance of platforms which are available, and it's so easy to get lost in the in the kind of content which keeps on getting streamed, which is being bombarded at us. And we just keep on moving from one thing to the next, and there are new things which have come up. You talk about doom scrolling, which has become a phenomena. You don't even necessarily reflect on or realize how much time you spend on a particular app, on a particular platform. And whereas you could have utilized that time to do something which could have instead connected you to something in your own life, but you don't have the bandwidth or the time to even realize that that is something also happening. And you're just constantly pushing, striving for more, running after more. And these are the things which are probably contributing to that entire segment of loneliness, because you're not being able to invest in yourself or in your relationships, and you're just becoming more and more disconnected from what would actually bring meaning, value, purpose, and contentment to our lives.
Yes, ma'am. So, how can we know that someone around us might be suffering from this feeling or from depression, anxiety, or any kind of mental issues? And how can we help them and be there for them?
I think there are some very, very basic aspects which we all need to start becoming aware of. Loneliness, of course, is not an illness. It's just an experience or a feeling state which an individual may be going through. But depression and anxiety can be illnesses, mental health related conditions which have specific symptoms which are associated with them. And in order to be able to recognize, and we're it's very important to understand that in order to be able to recognize if someone is having any kind of a significant mental health related concern, I think there are two, three aspects which you can look at. Is this person becoming more withdrawn? Are they choosing to stay more aloof, disconnected from you? Have you seen that there are changes in their typical ways of responding to situations? Are you noticing that this person is struggling to keep up with their chores, whether it's at home or tasks which are at work? And this is something which is uncharacteristic of them. Do you see that there are changes that they're talking about in terms of their own lifestyle? Having difficulties in sleeping, having problems with their own appetite, eating more, eating less? Or are they talking about that there is a constant state of fatigue that they're experiencing? Do you notice that they don't want to necessarily engage or indulge in things that they previously used to like? Could be areas of their interest, their passions, things like games, watching something, talking to friends. If you are beginning to notice some of these signs and you keep on seeing that this person is becoming more and more aloof, more and more disengaged, their thought process is becoming negative, their verbalizations also reflect that there is a state of disappointment or dejection, sometimes even feelings of worthlessness or hopelessness about what are we moving towards. And you see that there is a consistency in that. And that is where the narrative is constantly coming up from, and you keep seeing that those kind of experiences are getting more deepened within them. Those are all red flags that you can be aware of. I think it's also very important for us to realize and recognize that for any individual who would be experiencing loneliness, they would probably not have as many people around them. They would be very withdrawn. And they would also share with you, at least at some point in their life, where they would say that, okay, there are times when I just feel that there is no one that I can talk to, no one that I can reach out to. There are so many times when I want to share something, but I just don't know who to pick up the phone and call because I don't think there is anyone that I can reach out to like that. So there can be very simple statements that people may make. These could be your friends, they could be your colleagues, it could be a neighbor, and they would turn around and say these things to you. And a lot of times you may just ignore them, but if you start paying attention to these smaller verbalizations, you would realize that there are a number of people who have difficult experiences which can over a period of time get intensified, becoming mental health related problems in the long run.
Okay. So, ma'am, can you please explain to us about childhood trauma? Does childhood trauma also lead to such feelings of mental health and or later stages of life? And if yes, then how can we know get out of it?
See, any kind of an adverse negative life experience or life event, especially when it happens to you at a young age, can become a very traumatic experience for an individual. The difference is that at a young age, an individual, a young child, an adolescent may not have the best coping abilities in place. At the same time, they also have very limited understanding of what is happening, why is it happening, and frequently children and adolescents tend to resort to withdrawing instead of talking about and sharing what their experiences are. And as a result, they tend to formulate their own understanding of what may be going on around them or what may have happened with them. In that case, what happens is that they can develop very, very strong belief systems, which can be negative belief systems, sometimes about their own self, sometimes about people around them, a lot of times even about how the world is and how it tends to operate. These can color perceptions of what kind of outcomes they anticipate in the future. And when you end up having some of these kind of difficult life experiences, and trauma could be across a range of situations. Trauma could be constantly being bullied in school. Trauma could result from losing a parent. Trauma could result from having had an accident when you were a young child. Trauma could come from any sort of experiences. It could also occur on account of a natural event, which a natural calamity which you experienced as well. So when you go through some of these experiences in the future, it's possible that based on whatever belief systems you have developed, you could end up developing, say, some sort of anxiousness around similar situations. It can start shaping the outcomes that you anticipate. It can create a lot of worry within you, negative thought processes within you, sometimes impacting your mood even in the long term. And when you end up having that trauma being replayed over a period of time, it can also translate into becoming a post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a clinical condition which requires treatment. I think what is most important is that when young people end up having negative experiences, it is the responsibility of the adults around them, whether it's parents, teachers, grandparents, anyone who's a caregiver in that situation, to try and sit down, talk to that child about what has happened. If there are situations which the adults are incapable of looking at or handling on their own, it's important to connect them to experts to ensure that that experience does not have a long term impact on the young child. In case there is an adult who's had very negative life experiences and they feel that those experiences keep coming up for them, or they replay some of those patterns, or there are situations where they feel that those experiences tend to impact the ways in which they operate currently within their relationships or in their workspaces, it's important to go and start speaking to an expert to try and work through what it was, rectify those kind of irrational belief systems which may have gotten strengthened within them, and try to develop better ways of coping with whatever situations are coming their way in the here and now, so that one can ensure that there is a good way in which you can, or a healthy way in which you can approach life situations and live the kind of life that you would like to have for your own self.
Okay, so we have often heard about doing meditation, exercising, following routine, and focusing on our goals. But people with such issues find it hard to do such things. So, what advice would you like to give them? I mean, it's easy to talk about, you do meditation and you focus on your work and your goal, but the people who are suffering from mental health feel so difficult. So, what are your thoughts on it, and what advice would you like to give
Absolutely.
them? Yeah.
Absolutely. It can be very difficult for someone who's having a mental health related illness to mobilize themselves at times or even to follow some of the basic things. And I think there are three very elemental aspects which, if we tend to emphasize, they could be very helpful to an individual who does have a mental health related problem. First of these is that I think we need to encourage them to keep on sharing and discussing what it is that is going on with them. A lot of times, when people have long term or chronic mental health related issues, which are there in their experiential repertoire, they often tend to struggle to talk about it because they feel that either people will not understand them or they have actually had real experiences of being ridiculed for going through what they are going through, or they may have been chastised about it. So the first thing is that when people who are there around them, they need to encourage them to keep talking about and sharing their experiences, because that is your first step in being able to work through a mental health related illness. The second aspect is to keep on encouraging the person to keep on connecting with the experts that they're working with if they have access to experts. If they don't have access to experts, then they need to try and see if they can find support within the community that they are a part of or the family that they are a part of. There will always be one or two individuals who would be open to listening and who would not necessarily keep on questioning the experiences that the person is having, and that is essential. And I think sometimes what's also important is that it may be difficult to say meditate or go and exercise or do things in a certain way with a certain amount of regularity. But what's more important is to try and emphasize that if you have a problem which is a mental health related problem, you need to break down what you need to do on a day to day basis into a comfortable pace at which you can work. So you may not be able to integrate, say, five activities into your routine, but you may be okay integrating, say, one activity into your routine. Exercising for half an hour may seem like a very big thing, but maybe starting with basic stretches for 5 minutes may be a much easier thing. So you need to be able to find ways in which you can integrate some of these things into your routines in a very, very slow, sequential, hierarchical manner, so that you do not feel that it's becoming a pressure and a burden for you. Instead, you're being able to slowly build it up in a way that you derive maximum benefits out of it. And what one must always remember is that there is no one size fits all kind of a solution when it comes to mental health. Every individual is unique, and every individual will be able to utilize some aspects of maintaining, whether it's their routines, whether it's exercise, whether it's meditation, yoga, following a certain diet, looking at certain ways of coping. Every individual will be able to utilize some aspect to their advantage, and which would be far more suited to who they are and what works for them. And it's about figuring that piece out. So instead of feeling that, okay, I'm not even able to do this, and allowing that to become another pressure for your own self, it's about saying that, okay, it's possible that this does not work for me, but let me try and find something else which may be better suited to me. If you feel that you're developing tunnel vision when it comes to this and you are not able to come up with solutions, talk to people around you, friends, colleagues, neighbors, anyone. Talk to experts. There are helplines available, and try and figure out what could be something that you could do which would work for you and which could allow you to be able to pull yourself out of whatever is the situation that you're finding yourself stuck in and which is impacting your state of well-being currently.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, I would like to conclude by asking, is there anything else you want to share about your book with our audience?
I think there are a few things which I would like to highlight. I feel that over a period of time, loneliness is perhaps going to become even more pervasive for each and every one of us. This is an aspect or topic which perhaps is going to resonate with every individual, regardless of who they are and where they come from. Whenever you will have the chance to pick up the book and read it, you will find that there are segments of the book which you would certainly connect with. But what is most important is to not just look at this is a problem and now I don't know what to do. I think what is far more important is for us to try and understand that there are solutions which are available. And that is the second part of the book, which I think is perhaps the most important aspect which we do need to focus on. The fact that there are ways in which you can work through loneliness and find solutions for your own self. And the two or three aspects broadly which I would want to highlight here are: one, you have to start finding ways to connect to yourself.
Yeah.
What is it that works for you as an individual? What is it that is something that you would like to do for your own self so that you feel that there is meaning and purpose to the kind of life that you're developing and leading? The second aspect is make a proactive effort to start investing in relationships. Start finding that time to be able to connect to people, to actually engage in the kind of conversations that hold value for you so that you feel connected to people around you, and we can actually be true support systems for each other, because we do realize, and this pandemic has certainly demonstrated it to us, that having the right kind of support systems is absolutely crucial, and that does not happen without investing in relationships, and that's critical, and that's also a solution to loneliness. And the third aspect which I would like to highlight is learning to be mindful, learning to be slow in our pace of doing things, taking the time to reflect, to introspect. There is no race. The last year and a half, we've all realized that we can work at a different pace. We've all realized that we can live with a more minimal living as well. It's important to recognize what's important to you. It's important to be in the here and now, to be mindful about your existence. And I think that's one aspect that we must all focus on. So these are some of the messages which I would like to leave everyone who's listening into today's interaction with, that you must look at some of these aspects for your own self, and this would allow you to be able to connect more fully with yourself, with people around you, with life at large.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for making it to the prod, and thank you so much for sharing your valuable thoughts. And I request all my audience to check out the link in the description box below and order their copies. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ritwik.